Starting a realistic Barcelona career mode in FC 25 can easily be considered one of the more challenging saves, especially when approaching it from a realistic perspective. With Hansi Flick now at the helm, the objective is clear: turn this talented but inconsistent squad into regular title contenders, while also navigating the club's ongoing financial instability. The upcoming summer window will see several players departing the Catalan side, creating space for smart, impactful signings that align with Flick's tactical vision. This is not just about big name additions, but about making calculated strategic moves to help rebuild the squad while staying true to the club's identity and financial limitations. This is how you can start a realistic career mode with Barcelona in FC 25 and begin steering the club back to European greatness. When it comes to a save like this, it's all about setting up the right parameters to reflect what's happening in real life. And one of the most important elements is replicating the on-field style of play. So for this Barca career mode, I would highly recommend that you go ahead and replicate the 4-2-3-1 as well as the 4-3-3 tactics that Hansi Flick has deployed so far this season. And I will say that the 4-3-3 Barca tactics have been my most favorite tactics to use in FC 25 to date. Flick's Barcelona is built on structured possession with rapid vertical transitions, combining traditional Barca ball retention with a direct edge. His team thrives on quick passing sequences, intelligent movement into half spaces, and high pressing without the ball. It's a system designed not to just control games, but also break down opponents with relentless attacking momentum. So like I said, these tactics have already been recreated in the game, so the experience mirrors the real-life version of Hansi Flick's Barcelona, which in my opinion gives the save that extra layer of authenticity. So currently, as we speak, the Camp Nou is under construction and will only be ready by September of the 25-26 season. I think that's just before the Champions League campaign kicks off for next season, meaning that Barcelona are playing at a different stadium, that stadium being the Estadio Olympic Luis Companys. And what I would recommend you doing in order to try and replicate that stadium in game, because of course there is no rights to the Camp Nou, meaning that Barcelona in FC 25 are a customizable club, you should select the base stadium that is already given to Barcelona. And I would go ahead and just change a few things, one being the stadium name and the other being the seating arrangements in that stadium, making it all white as the real life stadium that they're currently playing in has white seating. And that just adds a little bit more realism and depth to the overall stadium and trying to replicate those realistic parameters. But what I would suggest you doing is, at the start of next season, switching the stadium to the biggest one possible and renaming it the Spotify Camp Nou, as I do think that there are some key similarities between that stadium and Barca's new one. Moving on to the Barcelona squad, and there are currently 32 players on the first team's books, with quite a few of them actually being out on loan, so we will be discussing the various areas of the team, starting off with the goalkeeper and running it all the way through to the strikers. Now, if you are a Barcelona fan and I've gotten something wrong, I do apologize profusely, but I have done a decent amount of research when it comes to making this video. But as always, I would love to know your thoughts and opinions down below in the comment section. So we'll start off with the keepers, and there are currently 4 of them on the first team books: Szczesny, ter Stegen, Pena, and Astralaga. Now, as for this young goalkeeper as well as for Szczesny, both of them are in the final 2 months of their deals, but I would strongly suggest going to extend their contracts for a further season, as that is exactly what Deco and Barca have done so far, as they're trying to keep some squad continuity in the team by extending Szczesny and Astralaga for a further season, meaning that their contracts will now only expire in 2026. But in terms of who will be the first choice goalkeeper, of course there's a lot of competition between ter Stegen, Szczesny, Pena, and even Astralaga to some extent, although it's mainly these 3 keepers here. I do think that when ter Stegen does come back, he will be the outright number 1 choice, with Szczesny being the rotational option, and then Pena will be getting a few moments here and there depending on how Flick really sees it. Onto the left backs, and there are currently 3 of them in the first team squad, with one of them being Alex Vela, who's out on loan at Como in Italy. It's only a loan, but there is an option to buy of 6 million, and I do think because Barca are so cash strapped and we are trying to play according to the real life rules, and of course Barca are in a lot of debts, I do think that the club will try and sell him in the summer, whether that's to Como, which it's looking likely, or possibly to another club. As for Balde as well as Gerard Martin, they could be the first team options at left back going forward, maybe with the addition of one other player, which we will discuss later on down the line. But I just want to add that the fullback position is vital to Flick's tactical system, as Balde has often created a lot of the width down the left flank, allowing him to whip in crosses and just generate that width across the pitch, opening up lots of space for the other central players. That could be Lewandowski or Rafinha or Lamine Yamal drifting inside from that right hand area, and it just allows more pockets of space to open up and for Barca to go ahead and exploit. So making sure that the 2 fullback positions are secured with quality players will be a vital component going forward, and that is an area that Barca are definitely looking to target in the upcoming summer window. There are currently 8 centre backs in the Barcelona first team squad, with quite a few of them actually being from La Masia. There's Dominguez, Cuenca, Marsnes, Christensen, Lenglet, Eric Garcia, Araujo, and then Kubasi. Now Kubasi is not going to be going anywhere, but a few other players can't say the same, as Ronald Araujo has been linked with a few loose moves to the Premier League, where whether that's Chelsea or Man United, but I don't think that he will be leaving unless there's a massive offer that comes in that Barca simply cannot refuse. I think that his future is pretty much locked in, at least for the next season at Barca. However, the same cannot be said for Eric Garcia and Clement Lenglet, the one being out on loan at Atletico Madrid and the other almost finalizing a loan move in the January window to Girona. Now, these are two players that are on the chopping block for Barca to try and recoup some money so that they do have some capital to try and spend in the summer window. So getting rid of both Garcia as well as Lenglet are top of the priority list for the club. And I suppose you could also chuck in Andreas Christensen into that. He does demand a big wage per week, and getting those wages off the books are also up there in terms of the priority list for Barca over the summer window. Mixed in with his injury history, Christensen hasn't been a dependable option for the side, and I think looking to shift him off the books and get him out the club and possibly receiving a decent fee for him, that could be the best move for Barca. And then there's one of the older players in the squad, but Inigo Martinez has proven that this season he has been indispensable to Flick's side, providing the much needed quality and leadership in the back line and helping guide the younger players around him. So he should also be extended for a further season, as his contract, just like with Szczesny's, will be expiring at the end of the 25-26 season. As for the right backs, there's Jules Koundé and Hector Fort, two options that have been fantastic for Flick's team, but again, the fullback area has been quite light in terms of the depth that Hansi Flick has available to him. So they will be looking to target this area, but both Koundé as well as Fort have been fantastic options going forwards as well as defending when needed. In terms of the defensive midfield position, there's Bernal, Romeo, and of course Casado. Now, Casado and Bernal are not going anywhere. They are currently recovering from long-term injuries, but I do think that their futures are very much involved in Hansi Flick's plans, whereas Oriol Romeo is currently out on loan at Girona. Now, as far as I know, there's no obligation to buy or there's no fee being agreed for the Spanish defensive midfielder, but I do think that that move will become a permanent fixture, and if not, he will return to Barca in the summer window and inevitably be sold to another club. And then there's Rafinha, who's having an outstanding season to date, deployed as that left midfielder predominantly and has been able to drift inside and add to the attack and operate in the half spaces and the midfield and out wide. He's just been everywhere and anywhere, and he's currently the favourite to win the Ballon d'Or for this season, depending on how things go for Barca. Of course, they still need to win the Champions League and potentially La Liga for that to materialize, but adding depth to this position might be a key factor in Barca's plans over the summer window. Then we move on to the number 8/ the number 10s of the team: Frenkie de Jong, Pedri, Gavi, Olmo, Torre, and then Fermin. There are a few of these players that are untouchable, one being Gavi, the other being Pedri, and possibly even Olmo, whereas Pablo Torre has been linked with a few moves away from the club. He hasn't really gotten the opportunity to play in Hansi Flick's system. In the preseason, he looked very good, but since then, the signing of Dani Olmo mixed in with Fermin and Gavi also being deployed as that number 10, his opportunities have been limited. And it's possible that Deco sees him as surplus to requirements, meaning that he could be sold for a decent amount of money, and that money can therefore be reinvested into another key position that needs filling or depth added to it. And then there's Frenkie de Jong, who has been a very good player for Barca under Hansi Flick. But because of his high wages, the financial strain that he has placed on the club has been detrimental to a certain extent, as financially the club just cannot afford to continuously pay him the 750,000 per week that he's currently on. So there is a possibility that the Dutch midfielder could be sold in the summer window. 2 years ago, the club did try and force him out and shift him onto Manchester United to try and free up those wages and even receive a decent fee for him. But that move didn't materialize and he ended up staying at Barca. Now, Frenkie de Jong is a fantastic player, and selling him would be purely based on the financial implications that it has for the club. However, there are a few other moves that you could make before trying to get rid of the Dutch midfielder. Of course, I just mentioned Fermin, but he is also another player that could maybe be shifted out the door. He has been linked with a few moves to Liverpool and a few other Premier League clubs, but I don't think that Deco or even the Barca board to that matter, and even the coach and Hansi Flick, really want to get rid of a player like this, as he can be deployed out wide on the left or the right, or even down the middle in that number 10 position, depending on what system you're going with. As for the other wingers in the team, there's Lamine Yamal, Ferran Torres, and then Ansu Fati. Now, in terms of Lamine Yamal, I don't think he will be going anywhere, ever. As long as Barca can keep him, they will try their absolute best. They've got a pure gem, a generational talent, and it's something that they would try and build their entire team around, just like how they did with Messi all those years ago. As for Ferran Torres, he's done quite well in his bench role this season under Hansi Flick, and I do think that that has rejuvenated the support that he has in the club for him to possibly stay on for a few more years, because there were a lot of rumors linking him with moves away, and it hasn't worked out at Barça, but in his super sub type role and his fill-in striker position, he's done quite well. Now the same cannot be said for Ansu Fati, who also wears the iconic number 10 shirt. I'm pretty sure that he will be sold in the summer, and again, that money will be vital in Barca trying to reinvest that into the team, or even just trying to stabilize their financial books. But that also means that Barca's number 10 shirt will be available. Will that potentially go to Lamine Yamal? Will he take the next step into becoming the next Messi at Barcelona? I think it's possible. It would sell a lot of shirts. It would generate a lot of money. So from a financial point of view, it makes a lot of sense to give Lamine Yamal the number 10 shirt. Of course, they gave it to Fati because they believed that Fati was the next Lionel Messi. It didn't really work out. They're going to try it again, but there's a lot more confidence that this will actually work this time. And I mean, giving Lamine Yamal number 19 was also a ploy to try and, follow in the footsteps of Messi, and it just makes sense to then inevitably give him the number 10 shirt. Now, there are currently 2 strikers on the books, 3 if you also consider Ferran Torres for that role, but there's Robert Lewandowski and Pau Victor. Now, I remember in the summer window, a lot of Barca fans were very hyped about the potential of Pau Victor obviously coming in from Girona, and he did quite well over the summer tour, but he hasn't really been able to kick on, and he hasn't gotten as much game time as what he would have thought, and he has been also linked with a few moves away from the club, not as a permanent transfer, but as a potential loan. So looking to loan him out will be the best move going forward, and trying to bring in a backup striker for the aging Polish superstar in Robert Lewandowski would be the best move for the summer plans. Now, before we start talking about potential transfers, the La Masia Academy has been a vital component to the success of Barca over the last 10 years or so. They've brought through key talents that have really helped them push on and even win La Liga titles, so it will be an important element to this career mode. Barca's youth academy is rated as one of the best in world football. It's up there with the likes of Ajax and Manchester United and so on. So making sure that you are consistently generating enough talent to come through and get their opportunity in the first team squad, or possibly looking to sell them on for profit, is a realistic aspect that you should look to incorporate into a career mode like this. So I have scouted in 2 areas of the world, the first being Spain for a 9-month period, looking for a defensive midfielder with a deep lying playmaker trait, as well as a wide left midfielder with a wide playmaker role, and then of course the false 9. The other scouting network that I have set up is in Colombia, where Barcelona are currently scouting at the under 17 championships. And in the last 15 to 20 years, Barca have been scouting a lot in South America. That could be Brazil or Colombia or Argentina or Chile, and they've been doing a good job in finding talents, bringing them over to Spain, incorporating them into their first team, and if they don't work out, they get sold on for profit, but if they do work out, they become key cornerstones to their squad. So you should try and do the same with the other scouts. I'm currently scouting in Colombia, as that's where they are currently scouting, looking for the next up-and-coming Colombian talent, as well as various other South American options. And for the third scouting option, I always leave that up to you guys to decide and choose where you would like to scout in world football, but my suggestion would be trying to send them back to South America to try and find the next Messi or possibly the next Neymar in Brazil in scouting in those 2 specific regions of the world. And then finally, onto the shortlist for potential players that could be making a move to Barcelona in the summer. Now, these are players that have been linked with a move to the club, as well as 1 or 2 players that I think could just fit into Hansi Flick's overall system. So we'll start off with the right back department, and Dodo from Fiorentina has been heavily linked with a 25 million euro move to the Catalan club. I think he would be fantastic depth behind Koundé and even competing with Hector Ford for that backup position, or maybe even starting ahead of Koundé for certain games. He's been one of Serie A's best fullback defenders going forward as well as backwards, and I think he would really fit into this attacking vertical tiki-taka style of play. And then there's Jonathan Tah, who would fit into this Barcelona side perfectly, both on a financial aspect as well as his natural playing style. Now, this is down to the fact that the central defender's contract with Bayer Leverkusen is set to expire this summer, and Barca have been trying their utmost best to position themselves in the front running for the German defender's signature. And I do think that they will get that over the line, and he will be joining Hansi Flick's side in the summer window. Barca have been linked with a move for Alvaro Carreras from Benfica, formerly of Manchester United as well as Real Madrid. He was at Real Madrid in his youth career before moving to United, and then United eventually selling him to Benfica. And I don't know if that will play a major role in Barca's decision making, although they have been heavily linked with a move for him. And I just think that stylistically he fits into Hansi Flick's overall approach and game plan. You could swap him in and out for Alejandro Balde or Martin, and you wouldn't see a drop off because he's so good at being able to patrol up and down the left touch line. Barca fans will definitely know of of him because Barca have played Benfica, what was it, like 3 times this season, or 2 times? I think it was 2 times, I don't know, quite a few times this season, and they would have seen firsthand the quality that this kid possesses down that left touchline. And looking to solidify the fullback areas in Hansi Flick's system, both down the left and the right flank, is a key aspect to this summer's transfer approach. So possibly getting both Dodo and Carreras might be the best and most realistic move going forward. Now I've put down 3 midfielders on the list, kind of midfielders I would say, but the first is Rodrigo Bentancur from Spurs, the other is Bernardo Silva from Manchester City, but he can also play on the wing, so he would add a lot of variation and depth to the squad. And then there's Kevin De Bruyne. Now De Bruyne has never been linked with a move to Barca, but simply the fact that he is going to be available on a free does lead me to believe that Barca might be looking at him. And I mean, if you get rid of a key quality player like a Frenkie de Jong, for example, replacing him with maybe not a like-for-like change in Kevin De Bruyne, but replacing him with an experienced player like KDB might be a great financial move as well as an experienced move on the pitch. And then there's Bernardo Silva, who has been linked with various moves to the club in the past, and he has even come out and stated that he would love to play for Barca at some point in his career. Now Man City are going through their own rebuild in the upcoming transfer window, and players like Bernardo Silva have been linked with possible exits from the club, and that is something that I think that a club like Barca could possibly capitalize on, looking to bring in Bernardo Silva for a cut price fee. That could bring a lot of depth and variation to the squad, whether that's Bernardo Silva playing in the number 10 role in those deeper positions or even out wide on the wing. I do think he could fit into Hansi Flick's overall tactical scheme quite well, but again, he is one of Pep's favorites at Manchester City, and I don't think that Pep would be that eager to get rid of him. Sticking to the theme of Manchester, and there's also Marcus Rashford. Now I did state that Rafinha's position as that left midfielder, there's also Ferran Torres, but that left midfield position is quite weak in terms of the depth charts. You've got Rafinha, you've got Ferran Torres, who also plays up front as a striker, but you don't have anything else after that unless there's a protege coming through the youth academy. But Marcus Rashford has been linked with a move away from United and possibly either to Aston Villa or to Barcelona. Now Rashford has stated that he would love to try and play for Barca at some point in his career, just like with Bernardo Silva. Funny that, isn't it? But for 35 to 40 million, Barca could look to capitalize on the fact that Manchester United are trying to get rid of him, and they could look to bring him in for a decent fee. And I mean, since his loan move to Aston Villa, he's been very, very, very good. So there is that too. And then the last option on the list is Jonathan David. I did say trying to strengthen the striker position, the depth behind Robert Lewandowski would be key, and Jonathan David does tick all the boxes. He can even be deployed out wide as a winger looking to come inside and play as that inside forward if needed. But most importantly, he would be a great financial option. He's on a free from Lille. He's done quite well in France over the last few years that he's been there, and he could do a great job backing up Lewandowski or even starting ahead of him at some point for the side. And there you go, people. That is how you can start a realistic Barcelona career mode with Hansi Flick. I do hope you have enjoyed this video, and if you don't mind smashing that like button down below, whilst also subscribing if you are new and you like the channel and the content on it, that would be absolutely amazing. Now, I think that a lot of you Barcelona fans would be interested in this, but I have recently started a Patreon, and this week's video is going to be on Luis Enrique's MSN era at Barca, that famed treble-winning side with Xavi and Iniesta and Busquets and Messi, Neymar and Suarez all in it. And those tactics will be going up on the Patreon on the weekend. So if you're interested, the link for that will be down below in the description. Of course, it is a paid for subscription, and it's just extra content if you would want to see something like that. So yes, the link for that will be down below in the description, along with the Brom Squad Gaming Discord server, where we chat everything IRL football, from Barcelona to Real Madrid to Man United to Igor Tudor's Juventus. We chat everything IRL football, as well as FC 25, and in the future, hopefully FIFA 2K26 and FC 26 and so on. So there's also that too. So that's for free. You don't need to pay for that, and that's also down below in the description, the link for that. Anyways, until the next time, until the next one, I hope you have a smashing goddamn day, and I'm out of here. Peace.